All right, without further ado, I am so humble and grateful to, on this Tuesday, mid-morning California time, already the 3rd of February, another year that's just going to go blazing by on this Elevated Magazine's podcast, to be speaking with the one and only Sasha Poparic. Did I get it?
Correct.
Nailed
Oh,
it. All right. Sasha is an absolutely spectacular individual, and no better time to have the opportunity to have this fantastic conversation with Sasha and all that he has to discuss with respect to, and I will simply let you take it away. You were just digging into so very much that I would love to hear you touch upon, as as would everyone that is and will be listening to this with respect to the glorious state of California. So, without further ado, Sasha, please.
thanks for having me. It's a Tuesday, and it's always shining here in the state of California, which, at one point of time, maybe 15 years ago, I'm born and raised in Switzerland. So, like 15 years ago, I wanted to just say, screw all this thing. Let me go back home. It's enough of this chasing capitalism, and, the more you make, the more you spend, the more you're going to make. You know, Becoming successful and wealthy and or like so to say self-sustained in America, it's pretty much easy. Keeping it up, it's the hardest thing to do because always those challenges. And I don't think that the competition is the challenge. Competition, it's actually something that makes you grow. I like to see what other people are doing. I like to see like what mistakes they made that like maybe I can take in my in my advantage. But everything else is like once you put your roots in this country, it's very hard for you to put a mindset back for where you came from, and coming from Switzerland. So I'm first of all, I'm not born with a silver spoon. Like my parents are working class and immigrants from like former Yugoslavia back then, and so it's like I didn't come here with like tons of money. I just came with anyone else, like anyone else, and say like let me make it. And I realized certain things that like you cannot just go straight to the wall. You have to like wait a little bit, correct yourself, pivot, and do your things. But arriving in California alone was everyone's dream. Especially Switzerland, which is always so cold. It doesn't matter what month it is. Like it's the middle of a summer, and all of a sudden, it's 40 degrees, and then you're like waking up in this gray weather and it's raining and foggy, and coming to California and waking up, in Newport Beach. It was my first thing that I came here. Like I was always dreaming to like opening my living room and then literally walk into the sand. And
Yeah.
that's that that's everyone's every Swiss guy's kind of a dream.
I love it. And there is, and Newport Beach, California is one of the greatest places to do just that.
It was amazing. I was mind blowing. I wasn't expecting anything. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I came here to study music, and then things turned into a different direction. But I remember like arriving here, like as I said, like I was in this little town called Baden. It's like has maybe 10,000, population, and coming to LA and walking the streets of Hollywood. Like the first thing I told to myself the morning of arriving with like jet lag, I was like, Sasha, you really screwed up. Like, where the hell are you? Like, what is this? But it worked very fast. I understood that there is so many opportunities that you cannot have in a country like Switzerland. Not because Switzerland, trust me, Switzerland is probably one of the richest countries in the world, but it's very
Yeah.
limited. It's very conservative. It's very like by the book, and you cannot just outgrow yourself over there. You have to come here and be thrown into this cage, into this jungle to like figure out how to balance it around.
Yeah.
And and as I said earlier, it's this lure of the weather. California is just spectacular climate, and you can always say, oh, it's getting cold sometimes. It's all this thing, but I mean, it never rains.
No, you're absolutely correct. And obviously, uh, You're absolutely correct. And within California, there are, of course, different geographies with varying climates and whatnot. But when you to touch upon, really focus on what you were simply, in all its simplicity, alluding to, whether with respect to Los Angeles, of course, and Newport Beach, and in within that those statements is, of course, Southern California. Obviously, if you take the whole state, it's different, but Southern California is without a doubt. Uh, when it comes to weather and just so what it has to, you just touched upon a lot of it, what it has to offer. And each and every area is so very different, whether it, Los Angeles, proper is Los Angeles. It is in all its enormity and it has so much depth. It has so much depth from the coastline up to the valley, from the northern tip of it up in Thousand Oaks and whatnot, down to the southern end in Long Beach, and then you keep going and you hit, as you said, you got Newport Beach, you got Huntington Beach, you got Laguna Beach. It's and then San Diego. Southern California is absolutely magnificent, and within all of that, as you mentioned, the weather is simply fantastic.
It is. But when we were younger, it made a difference. Now, not anymore, because you start evaluating your life. You start like, I came here, I was like early 20s, like, just hit 20 with two suitcases. I had no clue on, what's going on. Now I'm like 30 years later, I'm 50 years old, and I'm like, hold on a second. So what am I doing here? And it's not just the weather. Then, like, there is no priorities anymore. And like, say, you know what, I want to sit here because it never rains. Actually, now it pours, and it's been pouring for 5, 6, 7 years. You don't feel it on your skin like from a weather perspective, but you feel it from your pocket perspectives. And it's all this thing like, well, you want to stay here, you like this weather, but you have to pay extra tax, you have to pay all these things. And it's, what I said at the beginning is just stop making sense from, I think, any political circles. Like, I'm not definitely not going to go in politics here, but like, it really doesn't make sense. All these taxations, all these things that's happening, with these new ones that just came out of taxing per mile, like literally taxing anyone per mile. So because of all this green initiative that was happening for past 10 years, the California government was pushing towards literally, putting as many electric cars as possible. Just buy electric, buy electric. Now there are so many cars, and the main source of California taxes, it's gassing. They knew they can always raise gas prices, and they take the biggest chunk of taxes. Now, since the California has pretty much the biggest, influx of electric cars in America, they lost tax revenues because now people are using, electricity to put into the car, not taxes.
Right.
So they came up with, the tax. I think it just started it, or it's about to start, that they're taxing you anywhere between 5 to 10 cents per mile because they try to subsidize the taxes. So I'm a fortunate one. I have to shut up. I live in Beverly Hills. My office is a mile away. My gym is 3 miles away. My whatever, it's in a vicinity of 5 miles. So like me spending 25 cents a day extra in those taxes, it's not a problem. But most of the people, especially the working class, they're hurting the most because let's say, all the things like accommodations, services, restaurants, all these things. These people live in East LA because it's expensive to live in West LA. Oh, it's terrible. So these people have to actually drive for like 20, 30 miles at least one way. Imagine additional burden on them. It's crazy. It's just like, I don't think it's sustainable anymore. What's happening over here?
You're speaking about the well, specifically Southern California, correct?
Or, well, yeah, California in general. I mean,
California,
anything.
no, right?
I mean,
It is a state that's going through. Well, it's I mean, and that's one of the dynamics of California. It has all of these absolutely amazing attributes on the one hand, whether it be the weather, whether it be the opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. But on the other hand, it is a state that's run in a very unique way from from each county up until the top, and it's and now when with respect to what you're touching upon. And so these dynamics are created that then ultimately don't necessarily, they're not really thought through that well. You look at, say, going back years, but you look at, say, when cannabis and marijuana this would have been one of the greatest states to capitalize on the legalization and whatnot of that movement, and it was not done that well, and so it was not able to be capitalized on. Whereas you look at a state like Colorado, prospered, still is prospering from it. They have certain counties and states, such as in Pitkin and Aspen, where they make more tax revenue off of legalized cannabis and marijuana than they do off of alcohol, even. And so do you know that in Southern California, I used to be in radio back in the day. And in Southern California, the average person, this is still true, is in their car commuting every day 2.5 to 3 hours. So to correlate that with what you're just saying,
Exactly.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Go ahead.
the middle class, the working class, these high workers, the Latino communities, they like, they're doing those jobs that actually anyone else, rich and spoiled wouldn't do. Those people are actually, I have it like in my office, in my building, like I know where they live.
Yeah.
I know, and I'm just thinking about, and first you pay like 5 gallons plus on gas, then you're now paying taxes, and you're paying the highest registration in the country. Then you're just gonna pay a bunch of stuff like they make up, and they package it so well, and they say it goes for this cause and this cause, and it doesn't. So that's how. But the one thing leads to another, leads to increasing in like property taxes, increasing the properties values. They just doesn't make sense. I think that literally, I remember one anecdote. Back in the days in 2000 something, like I bought one of my condos for one of my first properties, and my friend actually bought exactly the same, maybe a month later. And then, 2 years later, we're about to selling it, and he was like literally sticking to his own price. And he put something like it's like, Invest LA, anything you touch is expensive. And so he put like $1 million condo. I'm like, dude, this is never going to happen. There is no way in the world that an apartment, I don't even call it a condo, a 2-bedroom apartment can ever be $1 million, ever. What are you talking about? Anything now, it's $1 million. Any single house, it's $4 million. I don't even understand how this makes any math. And I'm in this business, and I'm seeing how hard it is to even sell it. And with the interest rates being high and prices being high, and everyone is kind of stuck on it, where is it going to go? Like, is this going to happen that like one point of time in 2037, like any house is going to be $10 million? Like, are we going to that direction?
I, no, I mean I can't answer that question, but it's a metaphor. It's you're absolutely correct though. I mean, there are certain spots in specifically, of course, speaking to Southern California, where a one-bedroom apartment is easily over $2 million. Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking 1,200 square feet, maybe.
It's crazy. And
So you just asked the question. You can't even really answer it. So what is it that you foresee happening in the state of California, Southern California? How do you see when you take all these compounding effects, right? And also, we are experiencing, it has been happening, it's going to continue to happen probably at an accelerated pace, is, a significant amount of the population leaving. And so then also you're losing tax dollars, you're losing property tax dollars, et cetera, et cetera. So what, Sasha, do you foresee is happening or going to happen?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. I've been building businesses and startups all my life, and that's like maybe seventh round, building something, selling, building something, selling when it comes to companies. And, it's always like this 3 to 5 years kind of projected period. And I cannot see anything positive. I'm like in this literally mirrored foggy glass, and I cannot see through, because the moment you kind of analyze, okay, now it's going to stabilize, now it's going this direction. It's absolutely not. Nothing makes sense. I think that the prices are here. Like, look, there was a lot of craziness going on from the COVID time, maybe another 2, 3 years after this post-COVID time. When the whole US financial infrastructure was based on real estate as a commodity,
Mhm.
more as an something let you flip it. So people, that's why they reduce those interest rates to so low that like it was at 2.9% at one point of time, that like with a perfect credit you can buy a house or you can buy a property. And it was actually buyer's market, and like the sellers like had to go down with prices. And like I have some of my friends who are thinking now selling their properties, and it's like, don't ever sell it,
Mhm.
ever.
Right.
Because in 2002, excuse me, in 2022, you purchased a house at $1.5 million, it's called the price range, for 2.9% APR. And you got 20 years, a mortgage. Do not ever sell it,
Right.
because even if you are raising, even if you're just covering your mortgage, you're going to pay off your house 7 times in the next 20 years.
Right.
So stick with it. Now people understood that like the higher the prices are, the more it's going to go, and all of a sudden everyone is going to sell 10 $20 million properties. No, it's not. I mean, it now came to kind of stabilization, that interest rates are here going to stay between 6.5%. That's a norm. That should be a norm. That was a norm in 2005, 2010. And like all these delusional things that, I just bought something in 2020 and I'm going to sell it in 2030 for like 3 times more the value. It's not going to happen. So the prices are coming down. People are understanding that. How we are going to make more money to afford a mortgage, that's the biggest problem. Who is going to be able to afford it? And I'm not trying to touch any of these pillars of conspiracies or all these ideologies, like why the Pacific Palisades burned out, or like in Malibu, or like why after a year people still cannot rebuild Altadena, and why some bigger corporations are buying bulks of lots. They've been burned out. That's something that kind of LA is going in this direction. But where the prices are going to go right now, they stabilized. I think that they are going to actually, once it turns into the seller's market, when it's like this equilibrium between demand and supply kind of equals out, I think the prices of properties are going to drop probably another 20-30% for sure. And people are going to now understand it's 6%, and that's nothing better I can do. So they're not going to hold on to their properties.
Mhm.
Some of the property owners are going to say, hold on a second, why should I just now sell something when, as I said, I bought it 5 years ago at 3% APR. Let me keep it for good. Let me rent it. Let me like do whatever I need, and maybe use that to like buy a second property and so forth. But regular folks, I don't understand how someone at let's call it 80K a year, and I'm being now very, very like so to say positive, when I'm giving someone 80K a year
Yeah.
salary, can even afford to buy a condo, as you said, of
No, no.
$600 million. You
Not
have
in
to go
any,
up.
not in anywhere that you'd want to live. No. No.
You have to.
Unfortunately, and I shouldn't even laugh at that statement, but unfortunately, that is a fact that it unfortunately would not do too much for you in Southern California. Now, question for you really quickly. Now, that being said, if you are someone that is able to say adjust your situation, you could, there are still obviously many, many parts of the country. So you take a step back where you are, let's use 80 grand, since you threw the figure out there, you're making those types of dollars per year before taxes and whatnot. What are, in your opinion, if it's you and you took a step back for a moment, what other parts of the country would you be looking at as opposed to Southern California? Or circling back to what you were just saying, do you think it right now it is that time to just kind of wait on Southern California? And what are your thoughts, Sasha? You're the expert at this moment in time.
Yeah, well, the situation is again your mindset. Are you finally realizing it's time to leave LA because everything's too expensive, or are you so trapped that actually going to figure out to make more money to stay here? Okay, I've so people that they wouldn't know. Like, I mean, gonna tell you by myself. I've been thinking about moving back to Switzerland for many years, and every year I go visit, and like I am not that guy that left.
Yeah.
So like, I cannot associate with these people. There's people still my friends, but like I'm in a different kind of a planet where they stay the same.
Right.
And I grew up in a jungle, like I have to kind of apply that. So to answer your question, am I or someone like myself ready to literally say, okay, you know what, it's time to pack up, our stuff and leave this fairy tale of Los Angeles that we all entered in 1980s or 1990s or 2000s when it was utopia, and then moved to either our familiar zone. So I assume I have friends who actually left LA, they went back home, not particularly to live with their parents, but to live close in their area they're familiar with,
Yeah. Yeah.
So is this something that people are going to do, or or you have a family and say, you know what, let me just move to Arizona, or let me just
Yeah.
move to Texas, or let me just move. You're going to try to find, as much as we don't want to talk about it, you will try to find your cultural and your political association believes where you are moving. Obviously, if you're taking this bigger step. So on the other hand, you try to find those pocket spots, those to be as similar as possible to the way of life you had in Los Angeles. So now, if you're moving from LA, you're not going to just move to some little town in Texas or New Mexico or Arizona. You try to go to maybe Tustin, you try to go to Phoenix, or you try to go to like Austin or Houston.
Yeah.
And now, the more you're moving there, excuse me, the more other people are moving with you. So some of them are going to bring everything from here over there and try to apply. Second thing, what also they're going to do, they're going to increase the value of those places because again, it's demand.
Yeah.
There is not enough supply. So the price, so you're going to buy tons of properties. You're going to buy a property that jump in a value just because of that particular area. Now it's in demand. Look at what's going on in Florida. Friends of mine who live in Florida, real estate industries. It's like, dude, we are selling stuff. We know it's a bubble. When it comes to certain points like Palm Beach or something like that. Miami, it's already overpriced. So they're pushing Palm Beach or something like Boca. And they're saying, people don't ask. Speaking of California, there was those taxes they were implementing, 5% taxes for billionaires. I mean, that's another craziest thing ever. But everyone left. The whole Google team, the whole Oracle, they went and they didn't even counter offer. It was like they just bought properties over there.
Yeah.
So once you now start buying something and you're not even trying to decrease and find the price, the rest of the real estate is increasing. So to sum this thing up, I think most of the people who are California based, they're going to try to leave LA as an LA county or city and move outside, who are a little bit older. The others are just going to say, you know what, this is enough. Excuse me, this is enough for me. Let me move to some other state, start all over, or go back home.
Yeah. I think I agree with everything you said, and I think it will be. I think it will be. And it's actually it's already happening. The migration into other areas, whether it be southern South Florida, such as Miami Beach, wherever it might be, and it's it's unavoidable. I mean, again, look at since you mentioned it, and it's a perfect example. You look at Miami and Miami Beach, South Florida, Palm Beach, et cetera, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale, out there, all of that. You look at that area, and along with some of the greatest weather, some of the greatest real estate, et cetera, one of the strongest real estate sustaining markets in history, especially since COVID created that unique bubble at the time. Yet further, what do you also have in a state such as Florida? Incredibly busy, business friendly, incredibly entrepreneurial friendly, and further, they're actually almost opposed to the word taxes. And so you wipe that off the table and you have, right?
That's the biggest thing right here. It's always like, oh my God, who's going to move? You don't want to sell your condo and move across the street. Like just moving from one place to another, it's already, excuse my language, a bitch. Like I said, they say that like moving from one place to another, it's as equivalent to like divorcing. There's so much stress going on, and then like dealing with this thing. But so now moving to another state, like what am I going to do? But people will say, okay, hold on a second, this doesn't make sense. There is one really interesting concept when I was talking to tons of my friends, 10, 15 years ago, leaving LA in LA's prime, of flourishment of wealth, of money, or anything like that, leaving would be considered defeat or failure.
Mhm.
You failed to make it in LA. You failed to succeed in LA. That's why you're packing your stuff and you're leaving. Now people are leaving because they see it's actually success if you leave LA
Yeah.
because you're not going to start burning your cash or anything else, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and that and yes, there's really not much more to add to that. And in essence, by not, at least at this moment in time and for the foreseeable future, by not leaving, it's almost to a certain extent, it's the definitive classification of insanity. You're practicing insanity by not. If you're going to continue to participate in a practice that literally you know the outcome, at least in the foreseeable future, is not going to it's not going to go down the road that you want it to go down. Whereas you can gear shift and choose a different outcome in a different place and ensure relative success versus this current one. It's like
Correct.
you're driving towards you're driving. You and I are driving down two different lanes, right? We can see each other, and in my lane, I can see the horizon, and I'm going to drive off into it. And you see right in front of you a cliff, and you think, you know what? I'm going to see if I can make it off the cliff. You know what I mean?
and trust me, like it's look, we all put our roots here. You know, you build businesses, you did stuff. You know, it's not even about friends. You know, friends move, you replace friends. I'm like being more pragmatic over the situation. But like you put it in common way of life. It came to the point that like, okay, you know what? I think that doesn't make sense to pay HOA $2,400 a month, homeowner association fees, like where I am paying, it's 2.5 grand. There is no logic. There is no logic to pay that, and it's not my fault. It's not building's fault. Everything increased, so they're increasing the value of this whole thing. And what's going to happen in California? I mean, look, we can talk for like 10 hours. I don't want that. We can talk and switch slowly to politics. I don't want that either, you know, but I think you and your listeners are going to read through my mind. There is certain takeover here. And, you know, that it won't be like moving, I think, down the road. And I say down the road, not in like 20 years, but like 3 to 5 years, it won't be affordable to live here.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think that people are going to own much. Whoever bought it, bought it. I mean, people are just going to rent. It's going to be more, cheaper to rent, because all these taxes are killing it. And it's sad, but then again, even the market here, the industry here is shifting. Technology left California. Movie industry, it's becoming more relevant. I mean, everything is
Yeah.
AI. You know, 3 4 years from now you won't need even us to talk to each other. It's going to be just two of our, like, so to say, aliases or something like that. They're going to actually talk and in behalf of us and discussing things. So I don't want to start being smart ass, but like, hey, I think that movie industry has done what it's done, and that was the core. That was this pillar of Los Angeles. And once the movie industry completely dies, I don't think there is much more left here. I mean, I think that California has two really good saving points: the World Cup that's coming this year,
Mhm.
and Olympic Games 2 years. And if that doesn't save or doesn't change their projective, nothing will.
I agree. I agree with you, and I think that it's an interesting moment that with those two unique catalysts on the horizon with respect to the World Cup and the Olympics, which are very very significant, or they can be. There are certain things that can be done across many different sectors to capitalize on these. The question is, in a unique state such as California, and then further Southern California, will they? Will they take advantage of those and actually utilize them to their benefit and alter the course, so to speak, of what very well may become, or will they, or not? And that's one of the unique dynamics of California and Southern California is how will they let it play out, and will they actually do something to alter the end result?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is good things. There is silver lining here about everything, and well, you don't want me to live here and move to Europe, or you move to like some other countries. Like buying international properties is now becoming more and more easier to do. People decide not to just move back to New Jersey just because they are from New Jersey. There is say, well, let me move to Malta or Portugal and get European like residency, live there much cheaper. I mean, I hate calling this word cheaper, but let's call it affordable. And it's like this whole thing like 10, 15 years ago wasn't a norm. Like the technology is helping set up security measures, set up like more transparencies. 10 years ago you had to go and fly to Malta to see how this all looks like. Now with everything that we have, through Zooms, through like blockchains, through like everything, it's much easier, much secure for you to buy a property.
Yeah.
Initial programs like in Greece, like you can buy, for $250,000, you can buy a property and be eligible to get like a golden visa, which is like equivalent to a green card, which
Yeah.
is European golden visa. You can live in Europe.
Oh,
And,
absolutely. Yeah, in the Caribbean, you can do the same thing. Depending on the islands, in the Bahamas, it's 500,000. Then you have Antigua, Anguilla, and across the board, Jamaica. You have Saint Lucia, et cetera. They all have it citizen by investment, which is a very elegant way to say you're buying your citizenship. And then
exactly.
when you do it in the Caribbean, it then gives you a passport and basically sovereignty and whatnot in multiple European countries. You don't even have to
Exactly.
leave the state. It's just simply buy. It's called legalized bribery to buy your citizenship, and it's fantastic. I
I love it. I mean,
love
honestly,
it
like,
too.
you know,
I think it's
it's
great.
it's just this push, and I think the buyers, the younger generations are changing. They're realizing all these things. I mean, there is a lot of changing with inclusion of technology that's allowing them stuff like that. And we are getting older, so we are not old, but we are thinking differently as some kids who are now saying, you know what, I can just go and move to Europe and stay there and build my life over there. Like regardless of my parents being sixth, generation immigrants.
Yeah,
Like it's enough.
exactly. I agree. I agree with you, Sasha. I do. And I hope we're able to do this again. I thank you so much for taking the time. I can't believe we already. You're so well spoken, and you're so great to listen to.
You know what? I'm sorry, I ambushed you. Like you say, next, thoughts for next time. If you ever want to talk to me, oh, Sasha talks a lot. So,
No,
to
you're
like,
fantastic. You're fantastic, and there's still so much more that we could touch upon, and I hope we are able to. And I'm still very humble and grateful that we did get to speak today and discuss what's really happening with the housing market right now, and overall what's really happening in general with the state of California, and then even more specifically as we touched upon the state of, so to speak, Southern California. Sasha Poparic. Did I get it again? I got it.
again, I want to thank also to my amazing publicist team, like from Beverly Hill
Yes.
Publishing. They are rock stars, and I would really love to pick your brain the next time I potentially speak with you. And good luck with your magazine and everything. It's very inspiring.
Thank you very much, Sasha. I really appreciate it, and I will circle back with your publicist as well, who I have been communicating with to see if we can do an editorial feature article, if you will, on you in the upcoming spring issues of Elevated magazines. Sasha Poparic, thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of your day in Southern California, my friend.
Good
Take
luck,
care.
sir. Bye bye.
Bye.